Good morning, Sitaram, and welcome again to the second part in this program. Well, thank all of you who have been staying with the program and listening. We have been talking about 12 questions that is used by Alcoholics Anonymous to help brothers and sisters worldwide to determine whether they have a problem with alcohol or not. And I must say that these same questions can relate very well to other addictions as well. So we had just discussed from questions 1 to 6, and I personally answered yes to all of them. So we go to question 7. It says, has your drinking caused trouble at home? Here's what AA says. Before we came into AA, most of us said that it was the people or problems at home that made us drink. We could not see that our drinking just made everything worse. It never solved problems anywhere or anytime. And I have heard so many in my practice here. I'm working at Cora and so many different agencies involved in alcoholism and drug addiction, where there's so many people, especially in our society, where there's a high level of superstition among some groups, where a lot of people will tell you, it looked like somebody put something under my bridge or threw something in my yard, because I would be so happy in the shop. I have no quarrel. I would be singing and having a good time with my friends. But I don't seem to know, as soon as I cross that bridge to my house or open the gate and I go in, trouble starts. You know, as though that again, this is another ploy used by people who are addicted, genuinely believing, that someone else is causing the problem. They never taking responsibility. It is never them. It is the parents who did not give them the inheritance or did not treat them equally with the brothers and sisters. That's why they're drinking, and even the in-laws would say, he was a good boy until he got married with that girl, and then blamed his wife, you know, and then workers would blame the employers and the conditions of work, and sometimes we even blame the government. You know, there are studies, I mean, that shows that entire populations of people, like the North American Indians and the Irish, who blame the political situation that they found themselves in as the main reason why they have a problem with alcohol and drugs and so on. And there's some merit to that, I must say. But again, the first step to recovery will have to be starting to take responsibility, pinning the tail on where it's supposed to be on the donkey. You understand? So taking responsibility has to be the first step. So long as we continue to blame others, we'll never be able to fix it. Now, question 8 says, do you ever try to get extra drinks at a party because you do not get enough? Most of us used to have a few before we started out. If we thought it was going to be that kind of party and the drinks were not served fast enough, we could go someplace else to get more. And I remember the umpteen times we would be going to a wedding. And of course, while there might be drinks at the wedding, Indian weddings generally never served drinks in the old days. So we knew there wasn't the chance of getting drinks at the wedding house. So we each had a cooler or a tub in those days in the car trunk. And of course, before we even start going to the wedding, some of us, when we go to pick up the friends to go in the wedding, this is how it used to be happening in the old days. A wedding is coming up, and the boys would get together and we'd hire a car and we'll source the occupants, how many people for the trip. And of course, we will pick guys who were drinkers like us. And then we pack things in the trunk. And sometimes when you go to pick up these guys to go to the wedding, they're already drunk. I have seen that happen already. And the wedding, sometimes you go to the wedding and we don't even know, the wedding card said you are invited to witness the marriage ceremony And we never witnessed who got married to whom because we were so busy by the car trunk, inviting everybody else. And sometimes some of us never reached back home until the next day, after the wedding. So all of those are instances of extra drinks. Some fellas go to a wedding where there's a bar and they forget their wife is sitting at the table, they remain at the bar, you know. Question 9, do you tell yourself you can stop drinking anytime you want to, even though you keep getting drunk when you don't mean to? And it says, many of us kidded ourselves into thinking that we drank because we wanted to. After we came into AA, we found out that once we started to drink, we couldn't stop. And that's the crux of it. While we're not drinking, we have control. And we would brag and say, listen, man, I could take it or leave it. I only drink on weekend. And this is why alcoholism is said as a disease, is said to be cunning, baffling, and powerful. Because yes, some people may not drink for weeks and weeks and months. And of course that to them would translate that look, they have control. They could see other people drinking and never take a drink. Yesterday I was having a conversation with someone close to me. And he said, but look, I have some workers and they already start drinking, and I'm not getting the urge to take a drink. And that it might very well be so. But the minute you take the drink, that is when the chemical reaction starts and the craving develops. And that's again the key point. There are some alcoholics, well, the guys, some of them had to take a drink to steady their hands to start the day work. And they have reached to the chronic stage where they have become physically dependent on the alcohol and must take that to steady the nerves. But there are those who have not reached there yet, who can watch it and leave it and not take it. And I told myself I am not an alcoholic because I never drank alone. I never went and took that early morning drink. But I was getting there. Once you continue, eventually, if you live long enough, didn't get into accident or die, you are going to get there if you continue to drink. And alcoholics are different. There are those who have to have a drink every day because they have become physically dependent. But then there are most of alcoholics who are binge drinkers. When they're not drinking, they're not drinking at all. But the minute they take that first one, now sometimes to prove a point, they begrudgingly tough it out and not take the next drink just to prove to themselves they have control. But if everything being equal, as we say, the drink is available, the time is available, they have nothing else pressing to do, they will eventually drink till they get drunk. And now, as I say that, some people, even though they're drunk, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners could have seen this, they are insisting, no, I'm not drunk. You're crazy. Especially some guys go to a wedding with a family, and now the family is saying, hey, don't drink anymore. You have to drive. Say, what, are you crazy or what? I just had 2 drinks only. I could drive. And when they drink, then they think they could drive. You understand? Just like everything else, alcoholism, it dulls your reflexes, it relieves your self-restraint, and now you become very adventurous and brave, and you want to overtake all the cars in the wedding and get behind the wedding car. And I've seen so many, accidents happen in weddings with people who are trying to do that and who were drunk. Thank God these days I don't see much of that because I'm not going to those kinds of weddings very much. But a lot of people, it's just like the little boy who is frightened and whistling because he's scared. This claim that I could drink when I want and stop when I want. While it might appear so, you have to be honest with yourself and realize not when you're not drinking, but when you start, what happens? How many times you told yourself, I'm just going to take one, honestly, and you stayed to get drunk. Because once you took that one, and then the friends would oblige, they will tell you, you can't stand up on one foot, man. You have to take, an next one. So you take one, and then you have to take one for the road. And then eventually you take one for the drain, because that's where you end up. So many of us kidded ourselves into thinking that we had control. And this is why alcoholism is said to be cunning, baffling, and powerful, because you never know when you cross that imaginary borderline from social drinking. There are many people who could drink socially for many, many years and have control actually, but you never know when you cross that imaginary borderline, when you're starting to lose control, because alcoholism is a disease that you can inherit. The same way we inherit our looks, complexion, height, ethnicity from our ancestors. If there was alcoholism in our ancestry, we could inherit it. Even though our father may not be an alcoholic, like in my case, my father was not an alcoholic, but my grandfather drank heavily, and I believe I inherited that predisposition from him. Now, I loved him to death. He was such a nice person, except when he drinks. Most people who are alcoholics, they're the nicest people, the best tradesmen and workers and all of that until they take a drink. But when they take a drink, it's like all hell breaks loose, you know? So that, let's go to question 10. It says, have you missed days of work or school because of drinking? Many of us admit now that we call it sick lots of times, when the truth was that we were hungover or on a drunk. And, in industry, it is a common, I work in employee assistance programs, and I have seen, how a lot of times you would see alcoholics. Gradually, you'd see workers who start exhausting, using up all their sick leave, and then they have a propensity to be absent on Mondays. And that is a very, very powerful indicator that there's a problem with drinking or drug use. Because, even in my drinking days, I always wondered why they could not make Monday a holiday. So that when people drink on Sunday, they'll have a day to recover, you know? But I'm sure if they had done that, then I would want Tuesday to be a holiday as well, or Wednesday. And sometimes we'll take a whole week, because in the government service, you can take 2 days without having to get a sick leave. And how many of us really took advantage of that, because we were not really sick. We were hung over from a drunk. So that, how many people called in sick or had their family call in sick? And, I recently heard a joke about this boss who said that, he now believes in reincarnation. He's telling his worker, you always told me about reincarnation and I never believed, but I believe in it now. So the worker said, why? Said, because just, the uncle who you said you went to the funeral last week, he came here looking for you today. So he probably reincarnated. So that, I noticed someone is trying to reach me on WhatsApp, but please, you have to text your message. So that, many of us would have had relatives call in, or, yes, saying that we were sick or some relative had passed away or made some excuse for us. Now, question 11 says, do you have blackouts? Blackouts, a lot of people out there do not understand. They think blackouts is when you fall down and faint away and you black out. No, in alcoholism, a blackout simply means that you can't remember that little portion of your drinking time. So that you might have been drinking in Francis' shop, and that's the last thing you remember. Next thing, you're waking up at home and don't know how you reach home. If the car is in the garage or not, or if you ran over anybody on the road. And that's a very scary experience. A lot of people they drink to a point where they go into that stage called blackout. And in a blackout, they will function like normal, having a conversation. They can do everything. They even drive and everything. like normal, but they just can't remember it. And yes, we have had instances in Trinidad where alcoholics committed murder in a state of blackout. There was a man who actually killed his wife and couldn't remember when the next thing he woke up in the cell in San Fernando and couldn't understand why and what he was doing there. And then he was told, that you had murdered your wife. And that, I must say, is not a defense in law. The law will not excuse you if you said you were under a blackout. You would still have to pay the penalty. So a blackout is when you can't remember. A lot of people come and say, they see all the TV broken up the chair. Who did that? They don't even remember doing it, or no, don't even remember getting food to eat and blame their wife. You never gave me anything to eat. And so blackouts, it is estimated every time you have a blackout, you lose about 15,000 brain cells. And this is why a lot of alcoholics, after they stop drinking, realize they suffer in different ways, memory loss and all of that. And let's go to finally the question 12. Have you ever felt that your life would be better if you did not drink? And this is one question I would ask our listeners to consider who drink. Whether you're alcoholic or not, would your life be better if you didn't drink? Consider how much money you spend behind drinking, how much quarrels you have at home, how many times you're putting yourself at risk of being arrested or getting into trouble and all of that. So that, what is the benefit? Alcohol is a poison, Once you take more than a tablespoon, the liver is in trouble. As I speak, I know of a friend who's right now in serious trouble with liver damage. I was told so a few days ago, and because of alcohol. So if you think your life will be better, then it says here, many of us started to drink because drinking made life seem better, at least for a while. By the time we got into AA, we felt trapped. We were drinking to live and living to drink. We were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it says, what's your score? Do you answer yes 4 more times? If so, you are probably in trouble with alcohol. Why do we say this? Because millions of people in AA have said so for many years. They found out the truth about themselves the hard way. But again, only you can decide whether you think AA is for you. Try to keep an open mind on this subject. If the answer is yes, we will be glad to show you how we stop drinking ourselves. Just call. Admitting you are an alcoholic may seem today like the end of the line for you, but there are millions of people in AA who can testify that acceptance of their powerlessness over alcohol was not an end, but a beginning. The beginning of their recovery and a new, useful, and rewarding life. So I want to thank AA for the literature. I want to thank you all for listening. And I want to let you know, if you have a problem or you think you have a problem or you know someone who has a problem, please, you can get in touch with me. I will give you the information. Right now, we are very fortunate that we have meetings, have resumed in most parts of the country, physical AA meetings. And we also have meetings online so that you don't even have to go anywhere and you can remain pretty anonymous because you don't have to put up your picture or your name to attend these meetings. You just have to call me. I'll give you the reference number. Once you have internet and you have a smartphone, you can join not only in Trinidad, there are meetings as we speak all over the world. All you have to do is to click the button and you are there in the meeting and you listen and you will hear similar information like I have described this morning. I also want to take this opportunity to mention to all those people who are in recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous that the Felicity, I was asked to announce this, the Felicity Serenity AA group, which meets at the Mahasabha School in Felicity on a Sunday, this year is having their 26th marathon meeting for Christmas. This meeting starts at 8 in the morning, Christmas morning, goes right through the day through the night, right onto Boxing Day morning at 8 o'clock. And it has been a tremendous experience to attend these meetings. I have attended it many times. I try not to miss that meeting because it's in my community. And it is especially because at this time, a lot of new people in recovery tend to relapse. So this meeting is like a safe haven. If you, rather than stay home and get bored and feel sorry for yourself, come to the meetings. And you have people from all over Trinidad attending the meeting, speaking about their experience, strength and hope. There's a lot of entertainment. It's a beautiful experience. You can come anytime during that time, and you leave when you want. So I want to say again, I want to thank the radio and TV Jagriti staff and the Mahasabha for giving this airtime. And to remind you that this program again is repeated tonight at 10 p.m. And thank all of you who joined for the program. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at the numbers on the screen, and I will be happy to respond to them. So thank you for joining us this morning, and look forward again to speaking with you all next week, Thursday at 9 a.m. Thank you, and goodbye for now.